On July 31st, I spent the day hopping around Coney Island riding some iconic attractions. Included in the 6 new credits is the New York and coaster icon, the Cyclone, as well as the new for 2021, Phoenix. So today I'll quickly run through my experiences between the 2 parks, the roller coasters, and the day as a whole. So to begin the day, we stopped in at Nathan's for lunch because if you're going to Coney Island, of course you gotta get a hot dog before hitting the coasters. Now be warned that the rides here are typical of boardwalk parks down the coast in that they are pricier than one would really like. A 4-hour wristband for Luna Park will run you around $65 on the weekend, and single rides on the Cyclone will cost around $10. And even if you want to go into Luna Park and not ride anything, it's still a $10 fee. Now, Luna Park and Deno's Wonder Wheel are made up of mostly standard theme park and fair rides. Some of the more notable attractions between the 2 that are non-coasters include a Zamperla Air Race, the Wonder Wheel, and a Slingshot. There are also 7 operating coasters at Luna Park and 3 at Deno's Wonder Wheel. Now you can see the track for a new for 2021 or 2022 edition coming to Luna Park. It's going to be a junior coaster, but we're not too sure when it's going to open yet. Now, of the 10 operating credits at the parks, I get to ride 6, with Steeplechase and Minnie Mouse being closed at Luna Park, and the 2 others at Deno's being true kiddie coasters, so I skipped those. Now, Steeplechase is a Zamperla moto coaster that launches riders positioned on a motorbike-style train around a course of mostly turns. Now, it would have been my first motorbike-style train, so I'm a little disappointed about that, but the ride itself had some mixed reviews overall, so I'm not too let down, and I hope I can get the credit eventually. Now, Luna Park's other 2 family credits are Circus Coaster and Tickler. Circus Coaster is a small-scale Zamperla ride that wasn't very comfortable, but it wasn't quite a kiddie coaster either, so I think it was worth a one and done for the credit. Tickler is a spinning wild mouse, also by Zamperla, and it will definitely leave you dizzy. This ride only spins in one direction apparently, and it doesn't even slow down when it hits the trim brakes, so in all honesty, it was a little too uncomfortable for my opinion, but if you want a crazy spinning ride, this one just might be for you. Moving on to Soaring Eagle, a Zamperla Volair, this is a flying style attraction which feels like your uncle says, hey, I can build that B&M flyer, and decides to design one for a backyard zipline. It's got a cage-like restraint that are honestly just terrible, and the ride really isn't that enjoyable. It wasn't incredibly painful, and it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it just feels completely off. Then there's Thunderbolt, another Zamperla. Now in case you can't tell, Zamperla actually operates Luna Park, and they use it very much as a testing ground for their own rides. Now Thunderbolt is a sit-down looping coaster that has a clone at OWA in Alabama. Now the ride features 4 inversions, a vertical lift, a vertical drop, as well as several strong airtime moments. Now the ride looks like it should be a complete hit on paper, but unfortunately it just falls flat. The ride itself is just pretty rattly and rough to begin with, and then the restraints really only make it worse. Now the lap bars are much more like a block, and they can kind of crush you if they get stapled, and the shoulder straps just need to be torn off and burned. The seatbelt style straps are loose in the beginning, but they have no give whatsoever. So when you hit that airtime and inversions, your shoulders are slammed into them every time, and it's really painful. Now there's so much potential here, the airtime is really strong, and the inversions are said to be good if they were smooth, but it just kind of completely misses the mark. Now I've heard the clone is much better with the 2nd generation trains, but I don't have a plan on rewriting this one in Brooklyn anytime soon. Now the final coaster of the park is the iconic and famous Coney Island Cyclone. Now this is kind of a must ride for New York enthusiasts. I surprisingly had never gotten a ride till this day, so I'm really happy to report that this coaster is easily the best in the area. Once you manage to squeeze into the really weird and padded trains, this 1927 Woody is just running great. It is clear the park has done a great job of retracking spots and keeping it running really smooth. The ride is filled with some light floater here and there, and it's got some pretty strong laterals around the turnarounds. Now it's clear why the layout was cloned and became such an icon. It's really well designed. Now this is my 4th oldest credit, and actually lands up at 75 on my overall list. So it isn't exactly a special ride from a pure experience standpoint, but I think it holds a lot more weight in the historic and iconic sense. Finally, the only coaster we rode down at Deno's Wonder Wheel was Phoenix, a new for 2021 Vekoma suspended family coaster. Now, it's a really great fit for the park. The ride offers a more tame ride experience as you coast over the park and twist in and out of the supports. In the back, the rides do get a little bit of whip around the turns and even a small airtime moment. In all honesty, it's pretty impressive how it weaves in and around itself. Now the ride itself is also about as smooth as you can be, which is a little bit relieving as the older models from Vekoma tend to be a little shaky. Now the lap bar is also very comfortable and they're very open, and that just boosts the whole experience as you fly around. Now that being said, I still think the must ride here is the Wonder Wheel itself. Now the cars of this Ferris wheel run down a track as the wheels spin and they slide back and forth swinging the cars. Now this is actually called an eccentric wheel, and there's only 3 today that still exist, the others being at Disney's California Adventure and Yokohama Dreamland in Japan. This ride feels so different than anything else, and it gives some really awesome views of the rides, the beach, and the skyline. The boardwalk area itself can feel a little bit dirty and crowded depending on the time in the day. When nighttime rolled around, it was absolutely packed, and we had tons of people trying to sell us stuff on the boardwalk, loud music, not a lot of room to walk around. For parking, be prepared to get there early and to pay for either street parking every 2 hours or get an all-day spot. It was about $3 for every 2 hours we stayed, but we had to keep going back to the car to re-up it, so that got a little bit frustrating. But if you want, the subway for New York City does come directly to that area, so you can use that to avoid the drive. Now, overall, it was a really fun day. The rides were decent, if not unique, but for the price and the experience, it probably really isn't somewhere I'll return to soon, even to pick up a missing credit or 2. If Luna Park does go back to the old pay per ride system, I may come back for the Junior Coaster and Steeplechase, but that's to be seen. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. Let me know what you think of these iconic parks and rides below. Until next week, that's all from the shores of Island Coasters.